This episode is made possible by our sponsor, Omega Bright Wellness. I've taken their omega-3 supplements for many years, and so has my wife, and that's why I invited them to sponsor my podcast. I'm proud to have them. You can find all of their products online at omegabrightwellness.com, and Bright is intentionally misspelled B-R-I-T-E, omegabrightwellness.com. This episode is also sponsored by Landmark College in beautiful Putney, Vermont. Learn more about the college of choice for students who learn differently at their virtual open house on March 19th. Register at landmark.edu/visit. landmark.edu/visit. Or by clicking the link in the show notes. Hello, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell with a mini episode of Distraction. Today I want to talk about awkward moments. Turns out today is National Awkward Moments Day. Can you believe that? They have a day for that? I thought every day was Awkward Moments Day. Certainly, I at least have awkward moments pretty much every day. And I think it's great to be able to celebrate them and not dwell on them and feel embarrassed about them. And it's what Julia Child was the master of that. The great French chef. You'll never forget one episode. She was showing how to poach a salmon, and she picked up the salmon to put it in the poaching pan, and she dropped it smack on the floor. And she simply said, "Oops, we'll just pick it up and put it in. Nobody will know." And I thought that's become my ideal in terms of dealing with an awkward moment. So I'll tell you two awkward moments that have occurred to me. One just a few days ago, the other 1978, what's that, 40 years ago? But so the one that occurred a couple of days ago, I was talking to a friend on the phone. And as you know, I do have attention deficit disorder. And this friend was telling me about her visit to the dentist. And I have to confess, I wasn't really interested in hearing the details. So my mind sort of drifted off, and she came to the end of a sentence with a tone of voice that I knew it required a response. There was sort of a question mark at the end of the statement. And I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And she said, "What do you mean that's wonderful? I have to have 3 root canals and you're telling me that's wonderful? What do you mean? Were you even listening to me?" And I had to say, "I'm afraid I wasn't. I'm afraid I drifted off. Oh, that's wonderful." And then I just started laughing. I said, "That's just too funny. You've really caught me out. I'm really busted." And she started laughing too. But she said, I was really taken aback when I told you I had to have 3 root canals. And you responded with, "Oh, that's wonderful." So we do put our foot in it sometimes, but that's nothing compared to the fellow I was in medical school with. So we're rounding. Rounding in medicine means you go from patient to patient and you describe the patient's predicament, and then you have a discussion at the bedside as to what to do about it. And if you've ever been a patient in a teaching hospital, you know about this. And some patients love it because they're contributing to medical education. Other patients feel very awkward about it. But on this particular day, we were in internal medicine, and it's often kind of tense because we're all trying to do well, and the attending is grilling us and quizzing us, and we're also trying to respect the patient, so you don't want to talk about the patient in cold and neutral terms. So we're at the bedside of this patient, and my fellow medical student went through a lengthy presentation of the history and did a beautiful job of it. Very, not too much jargon, so the patient wouldn't be offended, and came down with a differential diagnosis. Did that beautifully, and the attending looked at him and said, "And?" And the student, my classmate, said, "Oh," the attending said, "Well, Dr. Jones, you're missing the single most important part of this patient's presentation." And the kid scratched his head. What could that be? The single most important part? I gave you his age. I gave you his history. I gave you the lab findings. He said, I'm sorry, sir. I don't know. What is the single most important part of this patient's presentation? The attending looked at him and said, young man, this patient is dead. And he had presented the entire history and lab findings and everything that he had marshaled on a man who was dead. And the man had expired sometime between when my classmate had last seen him and when we came around on rounds. And as he was presenting, just hadn't noticed the fact that the man was not breathing. I think he is probably telling that story, since this was 1978, somewhere, as he's, I hope, happily practicing medicine on people who are still alive, unless he's a pathologist, in which case he is quite rightfully practicing medicine on people who are no longer with us. These embarrassing moments, these awkward moments, are certainly a part of everybody's life. And I think one of the tasks that life sets for us, if you will, to keep us on our toes, is helping us learn how to deal with this acute embarrassment without totally collapsing, and then someday in the future to look back in laughter. Well, I hope you are thinking about your awkward moments. Share them with your loved ones over dinner tonight, or bring them up at work someday. It's a great topic to say, what was your most awkward moment? And if people are willing to tell the truth, it's something usually quite embarrassing and very funny. This is Dr. Ned Hallowell, after this mini episode, wishing you the very most wonderful, unawkward rest of your day wherever you are, for distraction. All right, well, that's our show for today, our mini episode on awkward moments. Thanks to my friends at Omega Bright Wellness for sponsoring us. Distraction listeners, you can save 20% on your first order at omegabrightwellness.com with the promo code DISTRACTION. Please keep sending us your questions and comments. We live off of them. We thrive off of them. We need them. Record a voice memo on your phone or write an email and send it to connect@distractionpodcast.com. That's connect@distractionpodcast.com. Distraction is created by Sounds Great Media. Our editor and audio engineer is Scott Persson, and our producer is the wonderfully talented Sarah Guertin. I'm Dr. Ned Hallowell. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. The episode you just heard was made possible by my good friends at Omega Bright Wellness. I take their supplements every day, and that's why I invited them to sponsor my podcast. Shop online at Omega Bright, and that's BRITE wellness.com.